Hello, everybody, and welcome to STOked, the ultimate Star Trek Online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man.
Hey there, Chris.
It is a nice day, and we have a big, tasty treat of a sandwich today. For this show, you guys, it's perfect. It's like up front, we've got some Season 4 looking ahead because, boy, by the time you're watching this, it should just be hopefully just 1 or 2 days away.
Yeah.
So you're going to bite, the first thing you're going to taste when you bite into today's episode is that.
Nom. Okay.
Little Season 4 stuff.
Nom.
And some news, but not a lot. And then in the middle, sort of like the meat, we got some math.
Okay, but I will warn you up front, it's not a whole lot of meat.
Oh, it's pretty tasty, though.
Everybody likes meat, though,
It's like
right?
the best kind of meat.
Yeah.
But it's not a lot of it.
It's like really lean, high-grade cut. Yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, what you're going to finish with is maybe one of the tastiest things, and it's one of those things I think you'll probably want with your sandwich from now on, and that is going to be the Foundry Files by Jupiter Force.
By who?
Jupiter Force. Yeah, we have a fleet for the show. It's a pretty awesome fleet, and it's pretty big. And we've got some major foundry enthusiasts in there. We wanted to really, we've been searching for the right way to approach Foundry missions in STOked going forward because they deserve a lot. And we set something up now with our force that I think you guys are going to just be extremely happy with, and we're going to talk about that later in today's episode. But coming up first, let's talk about what everyone is hopefully prepared for by now, because you've done your pre-patching, right?
Yeah. Pre-patching is now active for Season 4.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, has a name. It's officially been titled Crossfire.
Yeah.
Do you remember that 80s game where it was like the things that spin on the board and you shoot marbles at them and you try... It was called Crossfire, too. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
That sounds pretty cool, though. So, Season 4 is so easy. Right now, it's sitting on the calendar between 6th and the 8th, which means it could be as early as the next day after this comes out or a couple days down the road.
But soon.
Yeah. And we thought maybe we'd share in sort of as a preparation some of the things that we personally are looking forward to the most in Season 4.
I think both of us are really excited to see the UI responsiveness changes.
That's my number one.
Yeah, that's my number one as well.
Ground combat, even if you're not in the new shooter mode, I was on Tribble this weekend, and I just, not even in shooter mode, was just so happy with just the performance of the shooting.
Well, and I don't know if some people out there that haven't experienced this on Tribble are aware, but those responsiveness go to space as well.
Yeah.
Space is more responsive as well, even though it doesn't have any sort of a combat overhaul.
But I really notice it on ground. And going forward, shooter mode or not, that's the number one thing for me, on top of anything else. I would say also probably the thing that I'm still really soaking in is the new textures.
Oh, yeah.
Really
everything looks great.
I flew up to Deep Space Nine last night, and I was like, wow, yeah. Boy, look at that detail. Yeah, it's really impressive. What about you?
Well, I'm also really excited about the new features that are coming to the Foundry. We've finally get sliders. They're adding a bunch of new assets. The placement of objects is getting much easier to deal with. Yeah. There's little like clip art versions of most of the objects in the Foundry now, so you can actually see what you're placing.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot nicer.
Yeah.
That's really
so I'm really excited now. The sliders mean that I'm probably going to end up making my sequel finally.
That's what you've been waiting for.
Yep.
You needed to make a certain race. So that's cool. I don't want to steal your thunder here, but the replay ability now. I know that's on your list, and I should have put that on my list.
It actually came from you. You inspired me to think about it last week.
I've honestly been waiting since launch to really dedicate another tune. I mean, I've started up alts here and there to try something, but to really seriously take on another alt, I've been waiting for ground combat to change, and now is my opportunity. So for me, it's like a really big deal.
I didn't even
think of it.
In a way, this is a complete content revamp of every ground map you've ever played. You're going to be able to play it in a whole new way and enjoy it in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Which means that like more than half of the content of the entire game is new.
It's going to feel new, and the stuff that won't be drastically new is the space combat, which is the stuff I already effing love.
Right.
So it's like win-win. Okay. Anything else before we move on? Is other stuff that's new?
That's it from Season 4, actually.
You're looking forward? All right.
Yeah.
Now, these I don't think are really associated with Season 4, but they are new shinies. Maybe we can talk about this. One of the things,
ship stuff, so I know you're excited.
One of the things I am a fan of in this game is the Intrepid class. So it is hard to take that and make it better. But Captain Logan has shared some screenshots in the forum in this last week.
Actually, I think they're concept art.
Yeah.
And I don't actually know if Captain Logan draws these or if he's posting somebody else's work before he turns it into a 3D model. But
I'd like to know if anybody in the chat room knows. But
this shot,
really slick.
It's a new Intrepid variant. It looks great.
Yeah, you in the chat room were saying on the pre-show live stream that it seemed kind of Earth Space Dock-y.
At least a homage to it, the way it's got those flange thingies on it.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
come
don't
on.
know. Maybe
It
a little
totally
bit.
is.
I like it, though.
Yeah, I do, too.
And it looks bulkier, which would make sense because you need to sort of build on that platform.
I've been planning to move away from the Takir I've been flying, trying to decide which ship to fly.
Mm-hmm.
If this comes out anytime soon, it's an open and shut
Well,
case.
we don't know when it's going to come out.
I know.
But it looks pretty interesting. The other thing we saw is, in fact, we think this might be an Easter egg for season 4. So if you head over to the captain's table, you might be able to come across this yourself. But
on Tribble, by the way.
Yeah. Well, but by the time they're watching this, season 4 comes out.
Oh yeah, it might be
the captain's table.
Right.
I think it's a season 4 Easter egg.
I think so as well.
So tell them what's up.
Well, if you go to the captain's table right now before season 4 lands, you get talked about something. I don't even remember. I think it has something to do with the Iconians.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Who cares at
Some
this
story
point?
about the captain's table.
Iconians are old news, right?
Maybe.
But now if you talk to the concierge when you get to the captain's table after season 4, she says that she has a message for you from Captain Kurland. And then she says, oh, wait, no, the date on that's wrong. You can't have this yet. So it seems like an Easter egg about the next featured series.
Now, Kurland, remind me, why is Kurland important?
He runs Deep Space Nine. He's the new Cisco.
And we've heard rumors that the new featured episode is going to take place at Deep Space Nine.
Exactly. Now, there's even more there at the captain's table because if you explore a little bit, you will come across some Cardassian soldiers.
Some visitors.
Yeah, well, captains from every faction
Sitting
come
on
to
our
the captain's
couch.
table.
Sitting on our couch, and they have the new Cardassian uniform.
Yeah, they've gotten a graphical upgrade.
They look
good. I really like it. It's like a new futuristic battle take on the existing Cardassian design.
Yeah, it's like new high-tech battle gear. And they've got some plating, which is sort of reminiscent to early Cardassian TNG appearances, I thought.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there you go. You got screenshots of the new Intrepid and pictures of the new Cardassians. All links in the show notes if you guys want to check that out.
Let's talk a little bit about it's already unfortunately passed by this time, but this past weekend they had the Tribble test weekend.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we're actually filming this on Saturday when it's taking place. So you guys watching right now, you should head over to Tribble and take part in this because they're doing like weekend events.
They're saying
you
could qualify for like a little extra bonus thing too.
Yeah, that's usually some sort of special Tribble.
But the Tribble test weekends are fun because a lot of times the developers show up themselves. Last night I was on with some people from our fleet and they got to play on Earth Space Dock, and I guess it just went nuts, and they were spawning like 40 Borg. I forget the Borg name from the
Armek, the end boss from the Cure.
Yeah. On Earth Space Dock, and then you go down to, and then they had some battles up in Deep Space Nine and operations, and it was just a lot of fun and taking on these situations where they, like, I guess there was a grenade launched. I forgot what it was already.
A tricobalt grenade launcher.
Yeah, tricobalt grenade. Like, fun stuff you just never get to see that the devs get to play with. And they get to spawn whatever they want.
Although that also might be a featured series tease. That might be maybe one of the rewards that we receive from the next featured episodes. Because they usually don't really put anything in the game that we'll never see. So that's probably going to come out eventually.
Yeah. Something that could be in there. Maybe, or it could be part of the, it's on the season 4 patch, so maybe it's just part of season 4.
Right.
We don't know. Anyways, it was a lot of fun, and it's a good opportunity to jump on there. If you've missed it, though, we've hopefully got some links to some videos that some of our fleet took, and maybe we even got a chance to lay them down in this episode.
Speaking of videos, we mentioned several weeks back of this new fan fiction sort of machinima project coming.
And this has been, we've worked a lot with the demo record tool, and then when the Foundry came in, I said to you privately, maybe on the show, I don't remember, I said, this seems like such an awesome opportunity for somebody to take like the red versus blue that we had with Halo and apply that using the Foundry and using demo record to STO.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this has been done.
This has been done. The first episode of Star Trek Reunion is now available. You can go watch it. You can download it. Now, I got to say, you keep your expectations a little low at the beginning. This isn't a masterpiece project.
I would say keep them just in perspective.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Perspective.
Yeah.
But already judging by some of the comments that they've received and responded to on different threads and on their YouTube page and things like that, I can already see great things coming from this. They've got, I think, a 10-episode arc planned out.
Yeah, they've definitely got a great plan going, and they've got some people that obviously have worked. And there's some of the shots they frame, some of the camera angles. There's obviously some direction there with some thought process put into that.
I'm particularly impressed by some of the demo record work that they've done.
And you have to appreciate the music work that's in there as well, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought so far I've only gotten to part of it, but I thought the one of the female leads that takes place early in the video I thought was voiced really well.
There's quite a few great voice actors in this.
So check it out. Link in the show notes. It's up on YouTube as well. And like the J-Man said, it's part 1 of an ongoing series, and it takes place in the Star Trek Online universe. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and really awesome to see this happening.
I would recommend actually that you follow our link in our show notes to their YouTube page and hit subscribe. Just do it. You're gonna love it.
When we were chatting with our chat room over at jblive.tv, we were talking about how it really, if you compare it to where Red versus Blue started, they're already off to a great start.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean, they're doing great for their first episode.
Thumbs up from J-Man.
What do you say we get into a little tweet?
I want to kind of preface this by, you okay?
Oh, I was doing Tweet League fancy hands.
Oh, okay. Maybe you're going to make me add sparkles to it now, aren't you?
I would love sparkles, J-Man.
Most of the tweet leaks that we have this week are not actually tweet leaks, but the content, I think, qualifies as the same type of stuff.
Yeah, they're like actually taken from forums and stuff. But otherwise would have totally made it out on Twitter,
Totally,
right?
totally.
It just didn't for some
reason.
reason.
Fact, one of them is, in a way, a replacement to a previous tweet the tweet leak that we'd had. Gozer, you remember, promised to put out weekly teases for Special Task Force revamps?
Yeah.
Well, Gozer is now going to apparently be appearing on a weekly radio show at risaradio.com.
Awesome.
To talk all about the Special Task Force upgrades and everything like that. I don't know if this, I wasn't clear. I admit to only skimming the thing. I don't know if this is going to happen forever.
Is there any other game that has the amount of online media?
I don't know.
This is really cool. I mean, Machinima, you got this stuff, you got us. I mean, wow. So many other great podcasts out there.
Yep.
Really cool. So he's going to be on, what's it called again?
risaradio.com.
Okay.
And there's a link in our show notes. You can go check out their press release thing, announcement, so you know when to catch it and everything like that.
What else you got for us?
I got a new map of Kronos.
This is good. So if you guys are a little lost in the new city, you can check this out.
The first city.
Right. The new first city.
The new first city.
Right. You can go check out this map.
Which is way different from the New Jack City.
Right. And it's way different from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And you can, on this map, you can see the different hotspots.
It's not all that different from New Jersey.
That's a U.S.-centric joke, J-Man. We try not to do those, although... Totally. Now, so good link in the show notes, like the J-Man said. Also, though, a little more updates on the Gorn.
Well, I didn't realize that the version that we did a brief review of the Gorn updates last episode or the one before.
The hotness walking around the new city.
Didn't realize this is way a work in progress still. They're not finished. The fact that we mentioned in a previous episode that there were no sliders for like facial morphing, those are coming. They, in fact, might even be on Tribble right now. I haven't double checked. So you're going to be able to change like snout length and nostril size and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, I got to tell you, I'm just going to slide in one direction. Up.
Biggest nostrils you can.
Yeah. Well, my Gorn has a coke habit, Jim. Don't worry, it's part of his bio. He's working on it. All right, what else made it into the Tweet Leaks category?
The mini boss from, let's see, that's from Infected. Ogun? Captain Ogun, I think?
Captain, Ogun. I
didn't realize this. This one kind of slipped in under my radar before, but apparently he now heals himself throughout the combat. And he's been doing it a little more than he should be.
I'm about to table flip.
No.
Are you gonna talk me down?
No. Yeah, you're gonna.
Okay.
Because it's being tuned.
All right.
He shouldn't be as difficult as he currently is. If you've been trying out the new changes on Tribble, he's not going to be as hard as he currently is. I also heard
we got a lot of people emailing us, STOked at JupiterBroadcasting.com. A lot of people emailing us say, did you guys hear, or have you guys seen how they nerfed hypos? And also in our TeamSpeak for our fleet, they're like, hypos are essentially useless now. Don't even equip them.
Well, they did have to tune them because everybody got a health downgrade. They made combat faster, so everybody had fewer hit points. So they had to take the hypos down a notch.
Yeah.
But you're saying that they did too much.
They rolled it back. Yeah, they rolled it back. Hypos are much more effective again.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
We've gotten a few emails like, oh my God, you guys, if this patch is like this, I'm going to rage quit. It's a hypo spray, dude.
It's a hypo spray.
Yeah.
Hey, before we go real quick, I want to mention kind of a fun thing. They put some Hordas on the C-Store. I hope that these are available in crafting soon. That's what we had been told before, but not currently available.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so eventually, apparently, you'll be able to craft these.
I got myself one.
Yeah?
I got the Crystal Horda. I also later picked up the Acid Horda because I just wanted to try them out. Now, I gotta say, don't bring him to your bridge. He just makes a mess of the place. No, he's
they're
pretty
combat
cool.
pets.
They're big and they're active.
They're intended to be like something to help you take down. I could see actually the Crystal Horda in particular because he's more of a tank. He's really resilient and generates a lot of threat. Could actually be really useful on some of the special task forces.
Doesn't it only last for like a minute or something though?
That's a good minute of distracting the enemy so they're not punching you in the face.
Oh yeah, so not so much to deliver damage, but more as to draw fire.
Right, exactly.
I
kind of like how you use the pattern enhancers in some of those special task forces.
Oh maybe yeah. Good thinking,
just to draw fire. Now I don't know if they're worth the cost. I'm personally hoping that they show up as a crafting thing and you can just make them that way.
We've seen leaks of schematics and stuff like that, so it must be coming at some point.
I don't know if they're also worth the cost because you can already get one from the Riemann missions, and I don't know if the upgrade of the C-Store versions are all that much better.
Yeah, I guess check it out for yourself and make the decision. Yeah. I like mine, but yeah, I guess if you could get it from that, go that route. Yeah, definitely are. If you're a Horda fan, if you're a Horda lover, as I am,
keep that to yourself.
Anything else, Jay?
No, that's it.
All right, let's get mathed.
For the first time in a long time, it's just you and me, Internet, and I'm here to math you on the subject of efficiency. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the trait and exactly what effect it has on your overall power levels on your ship. One of the important things to keep in mind is this is specifically designed to enhance your ship's performance when your power levels are low. Now, as we get further into this segment, I will be showing you the actual math and some examples of exactly what effect that has. But just right up front, I can tell you that if your ship energy level is set above 75, efficiency traits have absolutely no effect of any kind on that particular ship power level. Now, the efficiency trait itself is split up into the 4 different subsystems on your ship. So while it will be possible to max out your efficiency across all of your subsystems, it's very important to keep in mind which power levels you typically keep your ship at. If your weapons are always very high, you need no weapon efficiency. If your shields are always very high, you need no skills in shield efficiency. So don't waste your skill points in that area. Now, the total max that you can achieve in this game is, we're told, a skill level of 125 efficiency in any particular subsystem. But achieving that rank will require you to max out your skill and achieve things like an efficient trait on your captain itself and a number of efficient bridge officers as well. Honestly, I don't think that that's something worth striving for. I think you can spend your energy elsewhere and get a bigger payoff in other areas. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the formula itself that affects your efficiency. Now, what this formula says, as I'm reading it, is that your efficiency trait divided by a number of 300 multiplied by 75 minus your current power level. Now, let's take an example here and assume that you've managed through some magnificent means to get a 100 efficiency rate, specifically for your shield subsystem. Now, on your shield subsystem, you typically run with a power setting of 50. Now, taking those example numbers, if we divide 100 by 300, this number is kind of your base efficiency variable. This number is not affected by your current power level, but it will be plugged into your current power level to figure out how much bonus energy your efficiency stat is giving you. So again, if you're running that level of efficiency on a power level that has a current setting of 50, we multiply that variable number by the difference between 50 and 75, or 25, giving you a total of 8.3, repeating, bonus energy in that particular subsystem. Now, if we take that same subsystem and lower the current energy setting down to 25, resulting in a difference of 50 instead, you can see how the bonus amount of energy really starts to ramp up the lower you set your energy level to, as this would give you a bonus of 16.6 repeating bonus energy. Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you set your power setting at 70, you're getting almost no energy return whatsoever, at only 1.6 repeating. Now, included in our show notes are a number of links that might help you guys out there if you don't want to bust out your calculators. First of all, I have a spreadsheet that will auto-calculate these for you. Now, even though I'm linking that for you and it's a great tool to use, I do think it's important to understand the math behind the calculations that are done automatically for you in that spreadsheet. In addition to that, I've also got a link over to STOked, which has already been updated with the details based on a post from Al Rivera just from yesterday, detailing the formula used for this and some more examples of exactly what effect efficiency can have on your different subsystems. As I told you at the top of this episode, it was going to be kind of a quick segment, but I hope this gives you more of a thorough understanding of efficiency.
It is time for the Foundry Files, J-Man, and this is something we have been looking forward to doing on STOked for a long time.
This is kind of a brainchild of yours. You've been wanting to make more Skype.
I can't claim all the involvement. The Jupiter Force has really pulled through on this one, but we've wanted to do something unique for the Foundry because the Foundry authors who make awesome missions really put a lot of effort in there.
They spend hours, dozens, hundreds of hours on these things.
And we wanted to feature these things in a way that they deserve for all of their hard work, and we wanted to do something unique. And we're just only 2 guys, so we thought we'd outsource basically and work with a team of people. And we're going to introduce you to them in just a second. But first, I want to tell you something. Ooh. My personal goal of these Foundry segments is at the end of this episode, you will walk away from this episode knowing for sure that you can go play a Foundry mission that you're going to enjoy. Because I think we've all had some experiences on the Foundry where it's been less than ideal, and we might have been sort of soured on the Foundry a little bit.
Including, actually, some of the missions that we've mentioned on the show before. We just kind of do, you might want to try this one out. Some people haven't liked some of those.
So we want something you can walk away from and be like, yep, we're going to enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And so the Jupiter Force has put together this Foundry squad, the Foundry Files we're calling it, and they're going to give these reviews that I think you guys are going to be blown away with. But without further ado, J-Man, let's put on the headphones.
Engage head monitors.
And if you got them muted, unmute those guys, and we're gonna bring them on. So
they've just been politely quiet over here.
Oh, what a bunch of good guys. We'll start with Murphy, and I think people that have watched the show for a while are familiar with Murphy and his sweet shirt. And Murphy, I'll let you introduce the team.
Yeah, so I'm Admiral Murphy, and also making up the team is Bridger, Uyu, Randall, and Irish.
Hello, guys. Irish, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing and why your approach is kind of pretty awesome?
Yeah, sure. Basically what we tried to do was, most of the reviews you see are typically subjective. You're going to hear comments from someone who's done a mission or who's maybe just played a bunch of them and has some experience with maybe writing and things like that, but nothing that really goes into the depth that we've tried to go into here and put numbers on things. So the first thing we've gone for is an empirical system using Federation missions, KDF missions, and more importantly, multiple language missions. We have the ability to go in and take things like German missions, and I think Bridger is also organizing for other languages like Italian, French, Spanish, those kinds of things.
Nice.
And then we have
That's
a method
awesome.
for breaking down the actual missions themselves. So what we've done is we've divided every mission into 3 major categories or content pieces. The first one being story, that then subdivides into things like plot, characters, such canon usages in there. The second component is more important. It's the technical piece for most of us here who actually write missions too. So that will be map usage, creativity, art assets, those kinds of things. And then the more important one to your general population of player, which is going to be the gameplay section. So that's going to break down into space, not combat, space specifically, because some of the missions we've seen don't actually use space combat. They use space as a transition point or a story point. Ground for the same purposing. And then one of the things that's come up recently in the last 2 or 3 missions was scaling. Does it scale up as a mission? Did the author intend it as a solo play? Those kinds of things.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
Very good. Yeah, you guys have assembled what everyone will be able to go find in the show notes as these reports. And these are extremely detailed reports that this is the Jupiter file on these missions, and they break down in different ratings and categories. Since we've got Foundry authors in there, they look at it from technical aspects, creative uses. One of the things that you guys are doing that I really like as a Star Trek fan is you guys are doing this concept of touchstoning. How much does it touchstone? Does anybody want to explain what that is?
Irish can do that.
Yeah, Irish was the one who came up with the
I love it,
name,
Irish.
believe.
Tell us a little about what touchstoning is.
It's not mine. I'm not going to take credit for that word. That came in from a few different podcasts I've watched. The way to describe it was linking or referencing is another way of thinking of it, but essentially what you're looking at is someone who writes a story, and most of the guys who do this will find an episode or a character or a piece of a movie where it's a throwaway piece in the side, and then they take that and turn it into their own narrative and do their own mission on it. So
So
that's
it's a
one
way,
type of touchstoning.
if I understand correctly, it's kind of it's a way of referencing to the canon in a way that makes sense. And the better that it makes sense to the established canon, or specific iconic moments or throwaway stories, as you said, in the established series and movies. That's how and how exactly does that separate from canon? Is there a hard line there somewhere, or what?
Yeah, you have to be careful with it, because like what I've seen is if you look at the EULA, one of the things we had to do in the last week was take the Foundry EULA and break it down into what is permissible and what isn't. So a lot of what the missions we've run into they've towed the line, or they've threaded the line very carefully, and they've just used referencing to names, no images, no attempt at making
No
NPCs,
likeness. Yeah.
and no contradicting of storylines that we've seen on the shows or in the movies.
Now, we are one hot skip minute away from getting into something pretty cool. You guys are going to compare an old top 5 episode on the Foundry mission versus a brand new top 5 and see where they differentiate. But before we get into that, Murphy, could you talk a little bit, because you and I talked on TeamSpeak about this. What's the difference between what we're doing here on STOked and, would you say, podcast UGC? And specifically, would you touch on what our spoiler policy is?
Yeah, so what we're planning to do is when you watch the video version of a STOked episode during the Foundry segment, we're going to try to bring up brief points to make you interested to go play the Foundry mission. We're not going to do story spoilers. We're not going to do spoil the ending, all that stuff.
Right.
But if you want a full in-depth review, in the show notes we'll be having an awesome slideshow pretty much put together covering story, gameplay, the technical side, all that stuff.
Yeah,
we'll also really have our score sheets in there. But so if you don't want spoilers, don't read the show note version. But it's safe to watch this segment.
I think I should probably say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that seems like the payoff of this. The segments that we'll be presenting are going to be kind of a short form of that to again, make you feel like you know why to play the mission, but for a real thorough and the way I would spoilery
is you get hooked by the show, by the episode, you go play it, and then you go read about it, and you see like points maybe you saw, maybe you missed, things like that in the whole report. So that's pretty cool. So you guys ready to start off here with our first Foundry review?
All right, I do want to bring up before we start our review for today, it's going to be a little different from future ones we'll be covering, because these two missions have been out for a while and a lot of people already know about them. So we might go into spoilers, because we assume most of you have played them. But
in fact, one of them we've actually mentioned on the show before.
I think both of them.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Well, then, without further ado, let's get into it.
What's the first one you got for us?
The first one we want to go into is The Worst of All Worlds, which came out around December on Tribble, and it's been out since then, and it was considered one of the best Foundry missions at the time. But we went through and played it and realized the story's good, but personally for me, I think the technical side for this mission was lacking. So when I played it in December and it came over to holodeck, I didn't notice a lot of changes in between that transition, except for the animations that appeared during the mission, because they weren't available when it was on Tribble early on, and branching dialogue. But so overall, when I played this mission, it had a good story. I enjoyed it, but on the technical side, I found it lacking. The maps, most of the planets and stations and asteroids and ships were all on the same level. Like, they weren't raised or lowered or any of that. And I found the maps lacking a bit, especially the ground map as well. It didn't feel like a colony at all. I think Irish will go a bit more into detail on that.
Okay, well, let's get some of Irish's feedback on this as a whole then.
Yeah, what I've got in this thing, this mission's had 5,609 reviews as of just before the show today.
Wow.
Average points of 4.33 stars, so it's pretty well rated out there. Like, that's almost top notch at this stage. Some of the quick notes I've got on it was a thing that was brought up during the mission from 3 or 4 of the team was bridge officer dialogue. There's a sequence in this where you're trying to save, I believe it's an injured Cardassian, and there's an option of using hypos to take care of them. I think Randall and Alex had a major issue with this one. Your buff basically turns around and makes a comment of, why should we waste the medical supplies on this guy when we may need him down the line? I'm like, okay, is this a Star Trek mission? What's happening here? So like, it's just a little strange.
Racism.
Exactly. They weren't
let the spoonheads die.
Fair enough.
But they're on our side.
Or are they?
You're going to have a hard time selling that one, Murphy. What Murphy actually referred to earlier on about the map, this specific map, I like the way it was laid out. It was a nice big sparse area, but it's supposed to be a colony. It's supposed to be in the process of being assimilated, and there's nothing but Borg machinery lying around the place. There's huge gaps between the machines. You have different groups of NPCs that apparently are in some sort of distress, but they're not being assimilated. You've got Borg wandering around. It seems a little disjointed and different than what we've seen in terms of assimilations of colonies and that in the shows. So I don't know if that was a choice deliberately by the actual author to do it that way, just because that's what he had available at the time.
Right.
But it does give you some problems in terms of figuring out what you're doing and why.
Okay.
The next one we had down here was that the space was a little too easy, and the grounds with all 3 professions, we went in with Psi engineers and tax, and solo play of each of those profs didn't have any problems whatsoever. So that's a nice point in that the mission's been prepared so that no matter what build you have, what prof you are, you seem to be able to get through it.
Okay. So anybody else chime in something on this mission?
Yeah, I really had a problem with the hypospray thing, because like when you used it, it's like, oh no, you don't want to use this on this person.
Right.
Then when you go back in and you say, no, don't use it, and they're like, what are you doing? You're supposed to help these people out. So it's the same bridge officer like telling you 2 different things, and it's just like,
personality.
Doesn't make any sense. And then in the middle of the mission of the ground map, because they're supposed to be invaded by the Borg, they're just sit right in the middle of the map, just not in like a building or off the side. They're right in the middle of the map where the Borg are just wandering around saying, help us,
What do you guys think about Peregrine Falcon in the chat room is suggesting that it was done that way to emphasize the limited nature of the supplies.
And like bleak wartime frontline.
Did you guys not get that from the mission?
We did, but
I kind of did, but I felt my buff was overreacting. I mean, touching on the Irish's point more about how your buff was reacting in yours Randall too, I actually commented in my review, I could have sworn my buff was an Undine infiltrator. It was that different to what my buff would have acted like.
Right, because it's your buff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, that's a good point. That's a good
So,
point.
Roger, do you have anything to say about the mission?
You feel it? Yeah. Because about the buff and how he acts, we were just 5 minutes in this universe, or in this parallel universe, and my crew acted like the Terran Empire.
So it was pretty jarring. Sounds like all of you guys agree it was pretty jarring.
Yeah.
but
But I also had a little problem with the beginning of the mission because Starfleet puts one of their most important military installations, a transwarp gate, into the Peshem system.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
And
that
the
does seem a
gem
little
system's
silly.
supposed to be the Vulcan system, it's a peaceful system with their monasteries and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
right. Yeah, right.
All right, so I think
So
we
how
should
does
get
this
into...
how does this
Now-
compare to the... Oh, did you have another
Actually,
follow-up?
I want to, you touched about touchstoning. Pajem was once used for military
true.
secrets.
That's true.
I mean, does that count? Was that considered
Well, it was a
at all?
secret, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so
I
now
think they've been
let's...
trying to stray away from that, though.
So what
since then.
what other 5-star mission are you guys comparing this against? Because this is, for our first one, we thought we'd do a 5-star
real
versus
quick,
5-star.
Can somebody on the panel just tell us what you actually ended up scoring at the overall score of Worst of All Worlds?
I scored this pretty highly because I concentrated on the story more. I really liked the story, so I gave it a 5-star. I didn't really pay attention to the maps or the gameplay side of things because I'm not as interested in that bit, but story-wise, it's definitely a 5-star.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. What was
I
the
agree.
overall review score that you guys gave it as the Foundry squad?
It actually came down to about 6.39 from what I'm looking at here.
Nice.
Out of 10?
Yeah, out of
Yeah, out of 10. That's
Okay.
the idea of the system is to make it a little more detailed and be able to give yourself more than the 5-star restrictions.
So above average, but not exactly a cutting edge have to play sort of
like
thing.
a school grading system.
Yeah.
So D-ish. But I
C-ish.
think,
Okay, it's a C-ish.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so what are we
I
comparing it
think
against
once
now?
it addresses its technical sides, this will definitely be a great mission.
Okay.
But now we want to bring up a mission that's been... It hasn't been played as much, but I definitely think this is one of the top missions currently in that has been made in the Foundry, and it came out shortly after the Foundry's first release. And I believe this is the author of this mission. This is his only mission, I believe, and this was his first one.
Wow.
Oh, what mission is this?
The Spirits of Ramak Nor.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yes.
I talked this one up quite heavily when we mentioned it on
Yep,
STOked
and I can
before.
see why. It's all around each category. It scored very well because its story was great. I loved all the maps. I was quite impressed because I can't do some of that stuff, and I was just blown away. The maps during the mission, they looked new. This guy took maps even that are already made, put walls in them so they looked different and all that stuff, and I was just blown away. And I think that's what really hit me during this mission were the maps. And there were some good characters. They had names. What you did during the mission was different.
Let's talk about let's break this down, kind of get granular on it. Let's talk about story first. And which one of you would like to go into detail on the story itself?
Randall.
Oh, fine, I'll take it. I did like the story. The story was very well written. There's a lot of tech, like canon, and a lot of things pulled in from like DS9. At first, and what's great about the story is that at first it's so well written that it makes you believe something else. Like, this is happening. I don't like how this is happening, and I don't like this character. But then when you start to you progress through the story, it starts to unravel a little more, and it gets more detailing. You're like, wait a minute, I was wrong. Wow, this is actually great.
Let me ask the question in a different way. You guys see this as a Star Trek episode?
Oh, good question.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
very much so.
Across the board. Yeah, all of you
Yeah,
can see this being
there's
made.
missions in STO that if STO was a Star Trek series and the stories in some of the missions, they feel like episodes. If they included this one in it, it would be one of their top episodes during the
Really?
season.
What was the
it
overall rating
feels
you
like
guys
Star
gave
Trek.
this?
I believe Irish has that. It was pretty
Yep.
high.
I'll give you the 4-score breakdown. Story, it scored 9.1 across the whole team. technical scored 9.11, and gameplay scored 7.12 because it's more story heavy than it is space or ground oriented.
That's
and
good
the
to know.
overall score at the end was 8.56.
Nice.
8.56.
Great. Yeah.
What's great about this mission too is that you had NPCs that you talked to and interacted with. It was like they had nothing to do with the story, but you can actually go in and they tell you different things. It was like very interactive and very. It just seemed like you can do anything you wanted.
Yeah. Like, I remember specifically one of my favorite parts of the mission. It doesn't even progress the story, but you go to a hospital during the mission. It's right at the beginning. And in the hospital, because the Bajorans think it's being haunted, there's a Bolian merchant selling, like, artifacts to protect the people.
Like little charm bracelets?
Yeah, and
nice.
he's just off on the side selling these things, and I go up and talk to him. I'm like, that's a nice touch. And I mean, the shelves have artifacts and stuff. I mean, he really put detail into his world and all that stuff, and I loved it.
That's some genuine ambiance right there.
I would actually, if they ever adapted this as an actual STO mission, they'd probably give us like a charm bracelet, like a good luck charm as the prize. That's the kind of thing I could see from this. I want to get to the technicals in just a little bit because that's one of the things that I found the most impressive about this.
Yes.
But let's touch a little bit on canon and touchstoning. Anybody want to cover that topic real quick?
Yeah, I can give you a quick one there. In terms of touchstoning, the main thing they work on here is the Cardassian occupation. For me, the best piece of this is it's not actually touchstoning in the normal sense of they're showing you part of an episode or a story. It's actually the character that's created. They introduced this Cardassian, Talor Krasad. That's the main character he's brought in, who's essentially like a wartime doctor, for lack of a better phrase. And the entire mission up to when you run into this guy, which is probably about 80% of the way through, maybe even 90%, you just hear about him. It's the perfect build-up to a villain character. And then when you're introduced to him, it spins it completely because you start getting dialogue from this guy and you're seeing him from a total different side, which throws you into the position of, wow, this is actually like a Jetrel in Voyager or a Goldar Heel in DS9. It's one of those characters that polarizes opinion.
Even to a certain extent, Gul Dukat from Deep Space Nine.
Exactly,
I think that's one of the keys to a good villain, and future Foundry mission authors, I think, should keep it in mind that the villains don't see themselves as villains.
Yeah, they don't think they're the bad guy.
Right.
They just have a different take on their cause.
Okay, so now let's get into the technicals. Who would like to jump on this? How about Bridger? You got anything to say about the map building and some of his special techniques?
Yes, they are great. These are common maps. He completely changed them. They look like a hospital, but if you know the maps, it's deep. You recognize it's Deep Space Nine, and that's the great thing on it, in my opinion.
It's really
Is there any specific examples of some of the technical tricks that he's pulled out of his hat on this?
There's some puzzles, like there's a pattern enhancer that you actually have to go around and like match the frequencies to, and it was pretty cool how he made that aspect. I mean, it was like you're actually trying to figure out the frequency and how to do and set these pattern enhancers up. It was a very nice touch.
Yes, and then when you go to Deep Space Nine eventually during the storyline, I don't want to spoil it because that was my favorite part of the mission. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. But when you go to Deep Space Nine, you have to go into like a closet or something to get a material or something like that. There's no map transition. Just suddenly you're on the promenade, you interact with the door, and all around you the room appears suddenly. So it's like you just map transition to another part on Deep Space Nine without a loading screen. All this stuff appeared. There's now characters in the closet, and that was nice. A brilliant use of making items appear in the Foundry.
Yep.
And no map
transitioning without a map transfer. I have to actually admit that when I played through this on my own, that's the moment that sold me on the mission. I was already enjoying it up to that point, but when I saw that happen, I was like, this guy knows what he's doing.
Wow.
This guy is unquestionable. He is a master of the Foundry.
That's awesome.
He played around with the Foundry a lot, I can tell, before he published his first mission. And that's, I think if you're going to have a good Foundry mission out there, you need to play around with it before you publish. Get to know the tools before you publish and write scripts for your story and all that stuff.
It's also worth mentioning, specifically on those transitions, is that this guy had to hide those pieces, especially those NPCs, from you while you're walking around the map the first time. Then the storeroom was the first transition, and you're thinking, well, that was a wow factor, as we were calling it. There's a grade in the actual tool for it in our scoring system, wow factors. And what happens with the second one is on the same map, he brings you into the Bajoran Temple.
Oh, yes. I remember.
It transitions into your ship. So you've now had essentially transition, original position of the map, forced transition, second transition back, and then two more to get you back to the ship. But you only use one map. Now, with Foundry limitation being 10 maps to a mission, that's incredible usage of what's available to you.
Yeah.
Wow, good point.
Yeah.
I like that.
So before we sign off, we do want to kind of say why we reviewed these two missions, because Worst of All Worlds, when it first came out, 5-star mission. I believe I even gave it 5 stars because it was great. It was one of the first ones I played that I really went, wow, that was pretty good.
Yeah, yep.
But if you look at it now, it's kind of lowered because nothing has changed since new features has come out. And while Spirits of Ramaknor uses a lot of these new features like transitions and
the triggers and being able to hide and reveal things.
So it shows that as time progresses, you need to go back and fine-tool your Foundry missions to update it with new features, address reports that people have made to your missions, bug reports, maybe suggestions on how to improve it.
1-star reviews.
Yep. The epic fail review.
Just like Cryptic themselves has to go back and retouch missions when they introduce new technology. Yeah.
I'm curious, actually, before we let you go, you guys have no doubt seen that there are a bunch of new features coming in Season 4. So just to touch on that again, I mean, it's going to be necessary for Foundry authors, including some of you guys, to keep this in mind.
Are you?
To have to go back and retouch the
I don't
missions.
want 4-foot Murphy on Deep Space 11 anymore.
Yeah, right.
I've been promoted for that.
I like
Morphe, it's true to life. Why would we change that?
Oh.
It's a leprechaun.
Any closing thoughts, gentlemen, on this file?
This episode, this review's been a little different from the standard ones, just because we brought up 2 missions that have been reviewed heavily already. I just wanted to put that out there again. The next one, we're going to be bringing up new episodes that you probably haven't heard of. I believe our plans are for a Cleon mission and a foreign language mission.
Oh,
and
great. Cool.
We're going to try to have in the show notes a translation for people who don't speak German or whatever. We're going to try to do that.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes, because, we've got some German-speaking...
But at the very least, by people watching this segment, they'll be able to tell exactly why they should go try that mission.
Yeah. Definitely go check the show notes for their full report. It is really awesome. You guys, thanks for coming on and doing the first Foundry file. I'm looking forward to next week.
Yep.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah, next week, guys.
See you.
All right, everyone. Now that right there will wrap up this week's episode of Stoked. But Stoked comes out every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, you say?
Over at JupiterBroadcasting.com. And, of course, we stream it live over at jblive.tv at 11 a.m. Pacific on Saturdays. And we invite you to join so that way you can play along with us on the live stream, join the crazy awesome chat room, and maybe even Skype in a few times, right?
Maybe.
Any other business, J-Man?
Nope.
Oh, all right. Well, go check out Jupiter at Night because it's got the J-Man and I, plus our buddy John, and you remember Brian from Stoked a long time
I remember
ago,
Brian.
and Linux Action Show. We all got together and we started a new show. We called it Jupiter at Night, and it's a geek talk show. It's a great commuter's friend, so go over to Jupiter Broadcasting to find that too. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching today's episode of Stoked, and we'll see
you
you
in Season 4.
Woohoo! Enjoy Season 4!